So this is for hashtag Unus Annus, I guess. This is really the only, like, it's not technically a challenge, but Unus Annus challenge that I feel like I'm semi-qualified for, even though I'm not really very eloquent. I wrote down some shit, so I'm gonna be reading off of that. I personally find it really hard to cry when it's coming from nothing, like straight just from me in that moment. It's really hard, because even if you're pulling from your own emotions and memories, it's not always enough for me specifically. I always have to get into someone else's head, a character or another person, and like be in that moment, in that scene. Like when you pulled out the script, that was a lot more effective than just staring off in the distance like, oh god, think about that one time. Yeah, it's hard. I have this joke that I tell myself because I have no friends, that I can cry on command, but I just have to think about my childhood. And then I'm like, haha, it's funny because it's true. But it's not really. It's kind of. I used to be able to cry on command really easily, but I also would end up spiraling myself into a panic attack, which is not good. Don't try and force yourself into... That's not fun. That's not fun. Be careful when you're doing that. I'm an emotionally sensitive person, but like very selectively. I mean, I'm sure that's a combination of like me being autistic and growing up in a environment where if you were being emotional, then you were being manipulative and you're making people feel bad for you, and so you kind of learn to shut yourself off that way. So like if there was a death in the family, I wouldn't really feel affected, and I'd feel bad that I wouldn't feel affected, but I just, it wouldn't really matter to me. But then if I'm watching like a show or a movie, like something hits and it hits really hard. Like Mark said, and like Ethan, like loss and self-sacrifice are a really big thing for a lot of people. Self-sacrifice especially is like my personal. A couple like actual like physical tips that I have. When I'm wearing contacts, it's really hard to cry unless I get it really going, because the contacts are designed to stick to your eyes, so they have a sort of absorbency. So when you start to tear up, my contacts dry it out before it even gets to the point where it can spill out. I either have to do it without my contacts and be completely blind, or try really hard to get past that point where it's enough of an overflow. It's really hard for me not to yawn, because when my eyes start stinging like they're about to cry, it also makes me think of, oh, it's sleepy time, and then I start to yawn, and I'm like, oh. But the yawning does make my eyes water, so that's good for like if you're filming something. Probably not great if you're on stage because you're like in an emotional scene and then you yawn. That's gonna ruin it. Music, listening to music helps me. I know that's not always an option if you're doing it like in the moment, if you're doing it in an audition or on stage in front of a camera, whatever. But if there are like, if you're affected by music, then you make a playlist with songs that evoke strong emotions. I'd suggest happiness or sadness, like extreme happiness or sadness, because those are connected and one can bleed into the other. You can pull from both of those. I wouldn't suggest putting any like angry music, because that is a different emotion that like if you're trying to sad cry, you don't want to like angry cry, because that's more of like a dry, shaky thing, and it doesn't always have the same effect. And whenever you have time, just listen to the playlist. I'm gonna warn you, don't listen to it when you're already in sort of an unstable mental state, because that can drag you down further. That's not fun. That's never fun. You just try to memorize what those songs make you feel, and like if you can try and pinpoint like specific lines that really hit you hard. Like musicals are also really good for that, not just, you know, contemporary songs. Musicals for me are really helpful because I feel like it's easier to express emotions through song than through just straight talking and stuff. I always have difficulty like crying in like a straight play, but like in a musical it's a little bit easier for me to get that through, at risk of sounding basic. Certain tracks from Hamilton, Be More Chill, Dear Evan Hansen, again at risk of sounding basic, but even stuff like Shrek the Musical and most of the Star Kid productions, actually, those are really, really a lot. Like To Have a Home from a Harry Potter sequel, If I Believed from Twisted, When the World's at Stake from Trail to Oregon. You gotta look for songs and scenes that really speak to you personally. If you relate to the characters, it's obviously gonna be easier for you to get into their head. If you don't have a similar experience, I assume, I don't know, I don't really have a problem with getting into the heads of characters of like the opposite gender. I don't really have a problem with that. It's just the characters' experiences. If the characters' experiences are exclusive to that specific gender, that might be a little difficult. I really connect to When the World's at Stake, but I usually put my head in like the headspace of like a mom, and that sometimes is bad for like dysphoria. Be careful when you're doing that too, because like when you're acting and you get into someone's head and you're like, oh, this is wrong, like that's hard, and that's a different kind of crying. We don't want to do that. I don't know if any of this made any sense. If all else fails, you know, like you could reach to your pocket and like pinch your leg. I don't know if that actually works. I think that was just from that Friends episode. I suppose I have to cry on camera now to seal the deal. There goes the yawning again. Yeah, let's see, instantly. The tiredness makes me look sad anyways. Yeah. Megamind? I don't even know if you're seeing this, but if you are, please, you can't give up. The Megamind I knew would keep fighting and not give up, even when he knew he had absolutely no chance of winning. It was your best quality. The world needs you. I need you. I got a little bit. Not quite. Let me see if I can do something else. And all you know about me is my name. Awesome party. I'm so glad I came. That didn't do so well. Ooh. Books. I read scripts. Let me see if I can find something good. Okay, so this book, Harriet the Spy. This was like the first book I read that like accurately described depression, and I didn't like a kid's book, and I didn't realize that's what it was until I felt like this later in life, and I was like, oh my god. Damn, that did absolutely fucking nothing except for like 1 second. I don't know what I did this for. Can I cry on command? Kind of. I also can space out on command, which is nice. That's stupid. I just want her to come back. I just want her back. Mommy. Oh golly, please come back. I don't know what to do. Everyone at school hates me, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I need you back. I need you. I need you back. Please. Please come back. Yeah, see, that worked a little bit. I just had to remember it. Anyways, that was all I got? Damn. Alright, well. Memento Mori. Unus Annus.